So believe it or not, the Samsung Galaxy S21 has been out for almost a month now, and I've been talking about this thing like crazy. I'm actually so sick and tired of talking about it, but I have to drop this review a full month later. Now, a little bit of context. I've been comparing this Galaxy S21 against so many other phones that I'm like just so shocked when I look back, because I don't even know why I even made those videos. But it's super cool to see how the Galaxy S21 holds up against the S20, the S10, the S8, so on and so forth. And with a phone like this, I can definitely tell you there are some highs, there are some lows, but ultimately, this is one of those devices that's just kind of boring in a few different ways, but it's not a bad phone. You know what I mean? I'm going to tell you straight from my heart. I didn't write a script or anything. I'm literally just talking to you how I think. But if you want to pick up the S21 or some other phones that I'd recommend this year, links will be down in the description. You can get it from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now, the body of the Samsung Galaxy S21 is probably one of those areas that I think hit me the hardest. I think when I have, one of the biggest assets of the whole entire S series, even the Note series, was the I/O, was, like the headphone jack with the S10 at the time, but also the micro SD card slot support. That was a really cool thing that I loved about the previous generations of S series. But then we got the S21 and it removed that, and it was a very strange thing. I still haven't really gotten over it quite that much, but I think it's okay. I can even get over like the resolution decrease in the display. That isn't that big of a deal to me right now. It kind of was in the beginning with, but ultimately I've kind of grown out of it. It's really not that big of a deal to me. But right now, I think I really liked, the curved display that we had with the Galaxy S20. With the S21, this one is a flat display. It seems too much like the A71 in my opinion, which is okay, but I'm glad they still stuck with the 120 Hz. I like that a lot. And I think the overall display is actually really good. I really don't think it's that bad. And even a month later, I'm still saying the same thing. USB Type-C on the bottom. Now, the plastic back is another one of those areas on this body that hit me really hard when it first came out, but I think it's grown on me and it's not really that big of a deal. I am glad that Samsung, decreased the price tag, but I don't know, there's just something about the premiumness and just, getting a phone and having it being a successor and better in every single way. When you have a device that is kind of better in some ways and it's worse in some other areas, I really don't like that. Apple does that a lot too, and I just don't like that when phone manufacturers do that. In this case, Samsung did it here, and it's just, I have to point it out. And I'm not a fan of it. Maybe it's not that big of a deal, it's probably not that bad, but again, it's just another area that I'm not really too happy about. The triple camera setup on the back though, it's really nice though, and I'll get into the cameras in a second, but I think ultimately the body, like I said before, is just one of those areas that I think I'm still disappointed in. It's gotten a little bit better, but I think it is one of the more disappointing aspects of probably the Galaxy S21 in my opinion. Now, the cameras, on the other hand, these are some really good sensors that Samsung threw in these models. Now, as you probably have seen before, like I said, I've done too many comparisons with this phone, so you probably haven't even wanted to see it. But that triple camera setup on the back, I think, is probably the best camera setup of this year so far, and I think it's probably better than the iPhone 12 Pros as well. I think the 12 Pros were good, but this Galaxy S21 camera is better, but it really isn't that much better than the Galaxy S20, if I'm being honest. I feel like from the S10 to the S20 was a pretty big upgrade. That was the first time we saw 8K on a Samsung phone in that caliber, and this one maintains that 8K, which I'm happy about. I'm never going to use it, but I'm glad that I have that capability if I wanted to use it. You have 4K 60 on both the front and the back as well, and this camera has that triple camera setup that I always talk about. The wide angle lens, telephoto lens, and ultra wide sensors. Those are very important resolutions to have on a device like this. And as I mentioned before, you don't have to go ahead and do anything crazy with this phone. Whether you want to do basic shots, it's going to look good. If you want to do higher intensive shots, if you're in low light, you're going to be getting a really good type of camera from this thing too. And I actually do think that ultra-wide sensor from this device is a lot better than some ultra-wide sensors that I've seen on other devices like my iPhone 12 Pro, for example. So I think the Galaxy S21 kills it in that area. I think the camera is great, and I think this is probably the best thing about the Samsung Galaxy S20. The camera, it being the caliber that it is, it's great. It really does the job, and this is the one area that if I had to brag about the Galaxy S21 in one area, it would have to be the camera. I think this is probably going to go down as the best camera right now. Probably any phone, to be honest. That probably goes to the S21 Ultra. But this is, this whole entire series of devices probably has the best camera in my opinion. So in terms of camera quality, that pretty much covers it up. Now, I also think another pretty good area of this phone is not necessarily the software itself, but the software update lifecycle that Samsung has actually just extended even more recently, but also the battery life on this device. I'm surprised. Typically, with One UI devices, it's really not that good of an experience. I've had pretty bad experience on TouchWiz, and that's pretty much been rolled over to One UI. But I will be honest, One UI 3 has been an improvement, and I feel like Samsung within the next year or two, they are going to completely rehaul and change their One UI software into more of a stockish type of feeling. I just feel like it's coming right now. Samsung, just like 2 days ago, 3 days ago, said that they're extending their security updates on their device to 4 years. So this means that you're getting 3 years of full OS updates and 4 years of security updates. So really the phone's lasting 4 years, but you're getting that additional security updates for a year, which is really nice. Now that is a really propelling thing for someone to go pick up a Samsung. Typically it was their software lifecycle was horrible, this or that. For an Android device, they are like up there with Google. So this is great because this makes me think that Google is also going to extend their software support even longer. I feel like with the Pixel 6 that's going to end up happening. So with the Galaxy S21, if you pick up this phone, you're going to be getting a pretty good, software longevity phone. Whether you like the software or not, for an Android device, you're going to get some long support from this device, which I like. And the battery life on top of that, I think One UI 3 has improved the battery life quite a bit with that 4,000 mAh battery on the S21. When I've compared this thing to a lot of my other devices, this thing does have a really good battery life. I think it is better than my Galaxy S20. It has a low resolution display, so that kind of helps it in that favor. But I really do think the software longevity is great. I don't like the software itself, but I'm glad that it's getting updates. So if one day Samsung does switch over to their stockish software, this phone is probably going to end up supporting it. And the battery life is great too. This is another humongous area why I actually do like the Galaxy S21 in this specific case. Now ending it off with the performance, this is another area where this phone really kills it in. The Samsung Galaxy S20 has that Qualcomm Snapdragon 888 chipset inside of it and 2 different models with 8 gigs of RAM. And from every phone that I've compared this device to, it is pretty much smoked it. I think, I think it's not as smooth as the iPhone still. I feel like even with the 120Hz, I feel like the iPhones give me a smoother and more consistent performing feeling that I get from it. But I feel like the Galaxy S21, to be honest, it is, I think, the fastest phone right now. I am curious to see what OnePlus is going to do later this year or in like a couple months. I think they're probably going to take it up a notch and probably do something crazy, maybe like 20 gigs of RAM. I don't know what they can do with it, but I feel like their next devices are going to be pretty wild. But I think right now this phone is an extremely fast phone. The S21 Ultra is probably faster, but this is a killer device. This is going to be able to handle everything you throw at it. The performance is one of those areas from all the speed comparisons that I've done and everything. I wasn't really freaking out about this phone. I did at first have some issues with the RAM management. So for some reason the RAM wasn't really being too well when I compared this phone to a lot of other devices. But since then it has been fixed. I think a One UI update came out and it actually fixed it for me. So I think that's a really cool thing that Samsung is actually pushing out these updates. And I'm glad that I was able to do those speed comparisons because there were a lot of improvements that have been happening since the initial release of this device. And I may have to redo a couple of them just because of the improvements that have been happening. But I think ultimately, as of right now, to kind of sum up this video and to kind of answer the question, is the Samsung Galaxy S21 worth it? 1 month later, how has it been happening? All that stuff. Well, you already know what I feel about this if you watch the video. If you're watching this on my third channel where I clip it down, basically my complaints in the beginning with are still kind of the same, but they're at a lesser value. I think maybe the only thing that I complain about in the beginning with that I totally don't even care about anymore is the display. I feel like my preference is a curved display, and that is actually a bigger deal to me than the resolution changing, and I really don't care about that. At first I thought it was a big deal. Right now, after using it, it's not that big of a deal. I feel like the two things, the micro SD card slot and the back changing to plastic, those two things I really do care about. It didn't really bother me too much right now. After using this phone for a month, it really isn't that big of a deal to me personally, and again, I used it as a side phone, not as my main device, but that really hasn't impacted me too much. The cameras on this thing I think are the best features of it. They are killer. I don't know why nobody else is talking about these cameras. These cameras are like literally the best cameras right now in my opinion. The telephoto and ultra wide sensors are not watered down. They are completely great. I'm glad Samsung is improving their software longevity. If they can just improve their actual software and make it a better experience for people and actually listen to the consumer and make it less bloated, I think this has the potential of becoming like the next to like Google or OnePlus. This has the potential of being like the next best Android phone. I feel like to a lot of people, the main thing that's limiting this phone of it being like that phone that everybody thinks is like the best Android phone. Right now, I still think that's like something like the OnePlus or like the Pixel, not even the Pixel 5. I think it's like something along those lines. I feel like if Samsung can just knock it out of the park with the software, they will have a hit on their hands. The battery life in this phone is perfect. and the reverse wireless charging is still an extremely nice touch. And I feel like the performance is top tier. It's like one of the best performing phones. Like I said, the main complaints that I had at the beginning with are still the same except for the display, but I feel like the plastic back in the micro SD card slot, if you don't care about it, this is a killer phone. And Samsung has decreased the price, and this price has decreased in the used market as well. So it's just like a no-brainer. If you have to go pick up a phone brand new, this is the way to do it. And like I said, if you want to help support the channel, links will be down in the description. But I say the Samsung Galaxy S21 is still worth it. I'm glad that the price has gone down. Obviously, it's worth it. And I will tell you, it's a better deal now because it has actually gone down in value. So that's just another W for this phone as well. So in terms of everything, that pretty much covers it up. Like I said, if you want to get it, links down below. Help support the channel too. I would love it. Check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.